Time for VUC. In our 11th year, with us on our journey this year, Simwood.com. Simwood can turn you as a developer into a telco. Greenfield Tech. Go to greenfield.tech and see how they can make your tech dreams both feasible and affordable. Our conference bridge is the best you'll ever find at zipdx.com. VUC.me is hosted on Bluehost. And our worldwide local rate dial-ins are provided by voxphone.com.
Welcome to VUC675 for December 8th, 2017. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. You're still seeing that slide that says that we're going to be talking with Zoa and Mira and Sala from Zoiper about Zoiper 5, but even as we speak, the slide stays up, and that's because this time I'm sending the slide and I get to keep talking because Randy has taken December off. So I will switch to me. Hi, this is Michael, and I'm going to allow everybody else to speak, and you can unmute, and we have Corrado and Andy and James Bodie and the team from Zoiper, and we are running Zoiper, and since this is all new to me, I'm going to ask James to take over.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael. And you know what? I'm really excited tonight because we've got, well, virtually the heart of the Zoiper crew. We've got Joachim, better known as Zoa to all of those out in developer land. We have the incredibly lovely, say hello so we can see you in focus. Joachim, speak.
Me?
Yes,
no,
yes.
I thought you were announcing the next personally. Good evening. Good evening. Yeah.
And it's nice to see that you've had your hair done specially for the VUC
yes,
as well.
Just for VUC, but I did it all for Randy, and now he's not joining us, so I'm a bit disappointed.
Well, he'll be back. Don't worry. But
okay.
You know, I have to say that you're looking particularly beautiful, but not as beautiful as the lovely Mira. Hello, Mira.
Hello. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, indeed, and we're excited because we're going to get to grips with the new, all new. Well, it's not that new, in fact, Zoiper 5, aren't we? You're supposed to say yes, James.
Yes,
and look excited. And alongside Mira, for the first time on the VUC, we've got Sala. Hello, Sala.
Hello, James. I'm also excited to be here.
Yeah, why is it that we've never met you before on the VUC?
I don't know. You should ask Joachim and Mira.
Yeah, I know. They lock you up in your glass cage there, and they don't let you out. That's what it is.
Exactly. Even without air, I'm gonna open the window actually.
Yeah, brave man. Anyway, back to you, Zoa. I've been using Zoiper 5, the H5 beta, for some time now, but it's progressed, hasn't it? It's now got to full release version. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So it's been in the works for, I don't know, 4 years or so, a little bit longer than we were hoping for. And I think about a month ago, we released the first version, and we just made an update last week with some bug fixes that we found or that we didn't discover in the beta stages, although it was a very long one. But yeah, as we said during the introduction, there's always some weird people doing weird things, like changing the settings in the middle of a call. So yeah, we've been fixing those. We have a few small minor bugs left, and that will obviously there will be new releases in the future. But I think maybe Salah will be better suited to give an impression of what is new compared to the Zoiper 3 or the Zoiper Classic.
Yes, for sure. So what is new in Zoiper 5? We have Google Contacts integration. So basically now you can show your Google contact in Zoiper. We have the reverse lookup for external contact services like LDAP, Outlook, MAC address book, Windows, and we have also XML service, which and so on incoming call and on outgoing call, we match the number with the contact from your contact list. This, I think we are the only one who's doing this. Nobody, I never seen a phone that can match number on incoming call. I've seen an application to match the number on incoming call when it is not a local contact. What do we have also? We have also XML contact service. So basically, you can have your contact on a web server or locally, but it should be in a specific format, and we will show the contacts in Zoiper. We have added the Opus wideband codecs.
And is that the full variable rate Opus, or is it fixed rate?
This is the fixed rate, intentionally the fixed rate. The developers didn't like the security implications of running the VBR version.
Okay.
Though I think they're very theoretical, but yeah, apparently it should be theoretically possible to map the words to the frequency of the words used in a language and deduct the call based on the packet sizes. So it's a bit strange, but that was the reason for not doing it.
Okay, and security is one of the key things, or pillars within Zoiper, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is, and at least in this version, there's lots of new things coming. We'll probably be adding more. So this version also has ERTP, has his RTP, TLS, obviously.
Yeah, and all of that. I love the way it's implemented. It's one of the most fully featured soft phones when it comes to security. Just out of interest, are many people, in your experience, are many people using the Z RTP, or as we English would say, Z RTP?
I think there's very few people using it. Overall, we don't have a way to see what people are actually doing, but we do not get a lot of questions. If we do get questions about it, it's more for Android. Like I have this red lock screen that is this red lock that is open. This how is it called? The I don't know how this lock is called in English. But there's an icon there. Yeah. So yes. So the padlock. Yeah. So the padlock is open, and people ask us, okay, what does this mean? I'm not sure everybody understands how it works, and it's a bit limited to who you can use it with. Like if you connect to a random SIP provider, most likely you won't have TLS, you won't have ZRTP. There's lots of things you will not have with most people. If you, of course, connect to your PBX, then you might have those functionalities.
Right.
In my particular instance, you can see that I'm using the Windows release to connect us to ZipDX. We've been connected for 25 minutes, and the statistics show us that we are actually connected in Opus at 16K, running about 41 kilobits per second. This is a nice display. This is all very straightforward.
Yeah, it's a very nice, clean user interface.
It's a bit different. It's been a bit of a gamble to change it. So most of the more recent applications are single view. Whereas the old applications, the previous versions of Zoiper were multiple panels. It has its advantages, it also has its disadvantages. So we no longer have some pop-up that is hidden behind some other screen where you cannot go to the settings because maybe the other one is open. So we don't have those things anymore. It looks a bit more like the Skype or the Facebook Messenger or the Viber applications. Or what else do you have? There's lots of applications. Most modern applications are written like this. It makes it a little bit easier to do cross-platform development. And the interface is actually just written in HTML. So this is, it's not using Electron. When we started the project, there was no Electron, at least we didn't know about it. But so we kind of did the same thing as Electron does, and we use a Chromium embedded framework to render the GUI. Now, it sounds easy, and that's also what we thought it would be in the beginning, but in the end, there's lots of unknown things happening, like on Mac, it renders a bit weird sometimes, so then we had to change certain parameters there, etc. So it's a bit complicated sometimes. But in the end, it looks like we got it to work.
And it's actually good for accessibility.
It gives us a lot more possibilities than before. In Zoiper 3, we were using WX widgets. We picked it back then because Qt was not freely available. And it also worked, but then you see things like you move it to Linux and suddenly everything is off with 2 pixels, and it's very difficult to get everything to work cross-platform. And this is one of the big differences with the previous versions. In the past, we made a Windows version and then we kind of ported it to Linux or Mac. And this time we started development on all the 3 operating systems at the same time.
Yeah, that's very brave.
Obviously, we do have a lot more users on Windows than in the others, so the Windows version is definitely better tested than the others. But so far, it seems to be going well.
That's actually one of the questions I wanted to get at is about how does it break down across the platforms? Because you've got some mobile platforms too. So what's the split between mobile and desktop? And
it's worth running through all the platforms that you now support.
To be honest, we don't really have good statistics on anything, but I can check what I do have. What can I see here? At this very moment, what I can see from the downloads is probably, but it's very hard to say. I only have statistics for Zoiper 5, and at the moment 80% is mobile. But Zoiper 5 is like a month old, so not a lot of people are using it yet. Mm-hmm. I think percentage-wise, in number of downloads, it's probably 50-50. Mobile versus desktop. We don't have any statistics on the split between macOS or Linux or Windows.
Well, that tells us that you're not tracking things. That's very not North American of you.
We don't have a lot of we could probably see something on the number of downloads. I think we might be able to pull how many people use Windows, Mac, and Linux just based on the downloads from the web server, but not what they're actually running in the end. If somebody downloads it and then uses it on 1,000 different PCs, we probably wouldn't be able to see the difference.
Okay, let's zip back and just talk very quickly about your free version, because most people will come in, will try the free version first, won't they? And then upgrade to the professional version. What's the difference between the two?
Well, most of the feature, almost everything is a premium feature. Only you can with the free version you can only make 2 calls, for example. You can only have 1 account. You don't have the external contact services like LDAP, Outlook, Mac address book, Windows, XML contact. You don't have also the event rules feature. So it's basically a call centers feature.
Everything you might need to make a telephone call to your family will be there, but if you want something more business-like, like any of the business features that Salah has mentioned, then you need to upgrade. So if it's related to Outlook contacts, if it's related to opening a CRM automatically, conference calls, these things are in the premium version.
Yeah, and that's where you make the money, I guess, for corporate customers who want a very feature-rich soft phone, which kind of brings us on to the configuration functionality, because you just look at the functionality in Zoiper 5 and it's enough to make your brain explode. There's a lot of complexity in there, a huge amount of functionality, but enough complexity to completely bamboozle most normal users. So clearly the configuration, the automatic configuration of the client is going to be quite important. So tell us how you do that.
So in the past, normally when you do some configuration, you typically start with the host name, then you add a username and password. Now it is a bit tricky to, in our case, we have thousands and thousands of downloads per day. So if somebody recommends one of their users, oh, please download Zoiper and configure it that way, and they're not very clear on how to do it, then we end up with getting customer complaints like, oh, we have error 403 or something, 401. There's, for example, something wrong with the password because the people just don't understand what is the password, what is the domain. Sometimes it's called host name, it's SIP server, it could be anything. So we looked a bit at how we could reduce the questions we get from customers. And it's not very obvious that because providers haven't moved to it yet. But so when you look at Zoiper now and you would like to make a new account, we ask you what is your username and what is your password first. Now, if a provider provides the user with a username that is in the form of username at hostname, it's fine. They can put it there. They click on the next page, and they will. Yeah, Michael, you probably have to go add a new account if you want to show that one on the bottom left. So when you do that, we already know the host name, and we can start probing the account. So like this, at least it doesn't matter if they gave just a username, or they put username at the host name, or they put a port in the back.
Yeah, this is one of the attractive features. You've got a whole load of intelligence in that setup, which
because in the end,
at
the moment, we're one of the few soft phones that support X. We used to have XMPP, and we'll have it again in the future. But normally providers don't say, "Oh, it's a SIP account." No. Most of the people, 99% of people, is probably a SIP account, but we also have people still using the X account. So we just ask what is the username and password, and then we try to figure out would this be an XMPP account, would this be a SIP account, would this be an X account, is it using TCP or TLS or UDP? When we do configure it, we will try TLS first, and then we'll try TCP, and then we'll try UDP. So if you have all three supported, it will default to TLS. But yeah, we do try to have some intelligence there. Not to have to tell the user too much information how to configure it.
Okay. It's probably worthwhile just actually seeing that. I don't know, Michael, are you in a position to put some credentials in and then kick off the that network discovery thing?
Michael, you seem to be muted.
Yeah, you are. Mouth is working.
Yeah, I was trying to be polite. There you go.
Okay.
What I'll do is I will remove from this client existing. Just a second. Let me get some credentials. Cut and paste.
So whilst you're doing that, I'm guessing you set it up so that it prefers TLS as the preferred mode of transport.
Correct. Yes.
Which is the sensible thing to do.
So what I'm going to do, because I don't want to reveal too much to the great unwashed out there in the world, is in a text editor, I'm just going to load some credentials that are kind of throwaway. And now I can switch you over to where you're seeing Zoiper on my laptop. Now, incidentally, we're also using Zoiper to connect to ZipDX. That's this call here, which remains ongoing, and there's the stats. 41 kilobits per second, that's pretty cool. A lot of Opus. ZipDX does support Opus, and so that's the first thing I tried. But we don't get a lot of people using Opus with us because we're fundamentally a G722 shop. In any event, so if you want to walk me through this, here's what I've got. I'm looking at this, and I need a username, which would be like a SIP account, and a password. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one, which is from our friends and former sponsors at OnSIP. Just copy that, drop it in there, because I'm very lazy, and they're very good at giving us long passwords. I put that password in there. So that's just a SIP URI, and I say login. And it pulled the domain name out of there, which is fine. And now there's this idea of an optional authentication username and outbound proxy. I know that I need.
We hit this one a little bit because most of the providers are not requiring it. So by default, it's a bit grayed out. So people only use it if they really need to.
In point of fact, in our case, we're supposed to. And I know that it's sip.onsip.com. And this is, in their instance, this is for legal intercept. It's actually not required if you're not dialing to the PSTN, but if you're dialing PSTN numbers, you do need it. So now it goes off, and it tests. And so it said, no TLS, no TCP.
Shame on you, OnZip. What, no TLS? Tut, tut, tut.
Oh, come on. Show me a PSTN provider who supports TLS out of the box. That's very few. And it's trying EEX, but it's not going to get EEX. We know that.
Yeah.
So I'll just say next.
You can continue, yes, exactly.
Yeah. And it now says that it's registered. Fair enough. And we can kind of prove that point by coming back here and getting out of the settings and find a contact. I don't want to contact Mark. I'm doing this full screen and I don't want to, just a second, let me get out of that. Get out of that, get out of that.
So
No.
I'm available as, I don't know, 007 from that. Bizarrely enough, extension 007. Or 7007. And you are in fact ringing me now, but I just realised I can't answer it because I've got my headset is plugged into my MacBook, so I can't answer it on my. But
well,
anyway,
here's what I'm going to do then. I'm going to call wideband demo at
conf.zipdx.com. That old chestnut.
Oh, and
you need to add zip before. Zip two dots and then call, yeah.
get this right.
There we go, and we're in. Doing a bit of audio just to.
Now here's a good test. When you use this and you come here, you can hit pound, which toggles between wideband and narrowband. Not all that useful, but if you hit 2, it issues one form of reinvite, and if you hit 3, and this is in fact the first test that I do with a new SIP client, because we use reinvites to move you from the IVR server to the media server for your conference call, and I want to know if the SIP client is going to lose the media as it gets reinvited from place to place, and happily Zoiper 5 does not. So the fact that we continue to hear the recording means that all is well. I'll hang up on that. So yeah, so that's pretty slick.
It is
Maybe something important to note. Maybe this is now when you're running the both panels, the left side, which is the contact list, and the right side, which is like a combination of history with the chat messages.
Yeah.
You can actually use a compact version by clicking somewhere on the bottom left in the middle somewhere. Where then check how it's called.
It's under yes,
There,
exactly.
there yeah.
Then
Okay.
go to settings.
No, it's the same. Like it's compact now, so.
Right.
But you could always make it compact, and then if you call, it will be a little thing on the right. So actually, we could probably try that.
This is what I wanted to show him actually. Yeah.
Oh, you can collapse the. Yeah. Okay, so we can do that.
You can stop using the right side if you are not using chat, for example, and you can go to the theme.
Theme. Okay.
Yeah, and then enable compact mode.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and then exit to the yes, and now try it, for example, to click on
try 7000, but do it in video.
So this is the difference now. Instead of having the full screen with all the things on the right, which is just a black screen if you're not using video, so you see a more compact version of the functionality.
Exactly.
Call rejected. Okay, you want me to try calling you using video?
Yeah, because there's a chance that I've got a video camera connected. It may just end that one, in the previous one, and inbound call. Allow camera. Yes.
There we go. All right. So now this will be interesting because I'd like to look at the statistics in this case and see what we're getting. And
there's no statistics for video yet. It's on the to-do list.
And only showing the audio. We're seeing Opus at 48K, so you support Opus at multiple rates.
Well, the quality's not bad, is it? So you're using VP8.
Yeah, it has VP8 and H.264.
Unfortunately, you can see my mess.
Officer's mess.
This is why I never use this camera. Too messy. Anyway, that works. And rather interestingly, I'm actually using the on-SIP WebRTC client here.
Oh.
That's just an extra bonus factor.
So that means that are we getting VP8 end to end in this instance because they're using, well, it's hard, depends what browser you're using, I guess, right? Because if you're on a Mac, it might be H.264.
Well, no, this is on an Ubuntu, big Ubuntu box.
Okay. So it would be VP8 end to end then.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll hang that up and see what happens. Quick question: the call recording, does that record video as well when you're in video mode?
No, at this moment it does not record video yet.
Okay.
We'll probably be adding it in the future, though.
Okay. Sorry to ask all the difficult questions.
It's okay. Actually, I wonder how many people are using the video conferencing. It's something we discussed before. I'm not sure it's all that popular still to this date for business meetings. I don't know. I rarely do it. I don't know how it's with the others in the group.
Well, on
we
our
do
team,
some video conferencing, but not a lot, is the honest truth.
Yeah,
no, default, pretty much.
For us, it is the default. Yeah, we use it all the time. So I can be rude to Andy about whether he's shaved or not.
Yeah, and I can make comments about James's weight.
Thank you. Yeah, I went to a seminar the other day, and the lady presenting was talking about different types of mobile network operator, and she described a term, the fat MVNO, and she looked at me, and I went, and she collapsed in a fit of giggles, which I thought was very, very funny. Anyway, talking about giggles, one person that we haven't really talked to so far is Mira. And unmute yourself, Mira. And we want to know what you have been up to as a member of the Zoiper team, because Sala and Zoa love to talk, but we love to talk to you. So what are you up to?
Actually, with such a team, I don't have to do anything.
I find that very
All I
difficult.
have to do is just sit here and wait for the guys to get the product ready. Our team is actually growing. We're
So
very happy.
how many people have you got now in total?
Zoa, you have an accurate number, but I'm presuming it's 48.
No, I think it's a bit less, but it's 40, 45 or so, 44, something like that. Between 40 and 50 somewhere.
Yeah,
So
well, you must be doing something right, because I know, having been to Sofia, there's a lot more competition for programmers, and it's difficult to recruit the talent and hang on to them. So you're clearly doing something right.
I suppose the scarcity of the programmers is a bit everywhere already. But yeah, it also hits Bulgaria, and then 10 years ago it used to be very easy to find a programmer here, but now it's a bit more difficult.
Mm. Are there any particular verticals where you find yourself doing better? I mean, is it a medical thing? Is it a, I don't know, engineering thing? I'm interested in sort of the adoption of soft phones. I have been hearing for most of my life that the desk phone is dying. I just haven't seen evidence of it in my daily life.
No, we do see. Yeah, we do see that it's changing a bit, especially on mobile. I think it's definitely the mobile is replacing the desk phone. I don't think the soft phone on the PC is replacing the desk phone. I think it's more the mobile phone. The desk phone, it's good for somebody that is calling all the time, but you typically want to use a headset with a desk with the soft phone on the PC, which makes it a bit difficult. If you don't call all the day, then you probably don't want to be using a headset, because it might not be here, it might be behind the desk, might be on another desk, While on the mobile phone, it makes more sense, because your contact list is there, you know how to use it, it's always there, it's readily available, and then it kind of makes sense because you don't have to buy an additional piece of hardware. Most people already have their own phones, and so I do see a difference there. I think probably in call centers it's mostly soft phones already. It gives them a bit more, makes it a bit easier to work with, I think, than with the other phones. They can do a lot of other things, integration with the other parts, with the other softwares, pieces of software. So, but it's evolving very rapidly, and we see soft phones in various shapes used in other industries as well. We have some things in the transportation industry, for example. There's versions of Zoiper that are running on airport shuttles, door panels. I think we're used in some boats. We're used on oil rigs. It's used a bit everywhere.
In hospitals.
Yeah, so it's hard to just say, oh, this one is moving more than another one. There's just some interesting projects that happen, and I think it's constantly evolving. We do, for example, see a bit of a trend where more call centers start to use video. Could be for the hearing impaired, for example. There's more text going on as well. I think that's especially in the States. There's some new requirements where the 911 has to be accessible through SMS. So obviously, a call center operator has to be able to react to that as well. So I think that the markets are changing all the time. But it's very hard for us to say, okay, this one is more popular than the other, because for us, they're individual projects. We don't see the market as a whole there. Plus,
Is it getting easier?
So is it easier?
Is it getting easier? Is the selling of soft phones getting easier as we go down?
Oh, we don't do a lot of effort in selling, so people just go to the website and buy it. So I don't know if it's harder or not. The sales are definitely upwards. So yeah, you could probably see it like that. That it might be getting easier, or maybe we're getting more popular, or we have better products. I don't know.
Or we are doing a better job.
Yeah.
Yes, for example.
Yeah, well, talk us through the exciting growth bit, which is the mobile side. What features does your mobile client have that perhaps set you apart from the opposition?
I think on the mobile version, we were launching new versions now. So for Android, we are running a beta for over a year now already, and I think maybe next week it will be released as the stable version. And this is mostly a rewrite of the software. So on mobile, it's not so much about features, I think. It's more about keeping up with the possibilities of the different operating systems. So like there's every 6 months there's a new version of iOS, there's a new version of Android, and it's different models there. I think functionality-wise, it's a bit the same everywhere. It's very hard to get decent quality, especially on Android. But functionality-wise, I don't think there's an awful lot left to implement. There's definitely message waiting indicator that we have for the big carriers, but not for normal SIP providers, that we still want to put. On Android, we'll be making the A-Audio, which is a new audio driver, starting with Android 8. Aside from that, XMPP will be added as well. But all the normal functionality, I mean, is there. We have video, we have encryption, there's integration with the native dialers, with the contact lists. And through the contact list, we can also go through Exchange, etc. So,
okay. With my background, clearly I've got an interest in mobile networks. Are you doing anything specifically related to mobile network operators and IMS interoperability?
Yes, so we have a few projects that are in production already. There's a few more where it's in the development, where we kind of try to make it easier to interconnect with VoLTE phones. So we implement a little bit more on the client side, so the people on the server side don't have to. Like we do SMS over IP, we do the preconditions part. What else do we have for those? We do file transfer with MSRP. We do multi-party chat with MSRP.
Okay. Are you doing the quality of service tagging as well? Do you do that?
No, we don't do quality of service tagging.
Okay.
Because usually for the mobile operators, they can do it without that, and for the other people, I don't think it is practically usable at this very moment. Meaning, if you do it on Windows, you don't have access over it. Unless you fool around with the domain controller settings. So from our point of view, on the desktop there's nothing left for us to do, and I think on the mobile it's not being respected anyway.
Okay, well, it's something we used to use in a previous life. We used to improve the quality of our voice calls just by manipulating the diff-serve tags, but that's not the same as IMS quads, I understand. But anyway, so we're going to be in a position soon where you will be able to take your Zoiper soft phone and place a VoLTE call directly to a VoLTE handset without anything getting in the way. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, well, depending on the provider you're working with, but there are several operators where you can do exactly that. And it's in the case of Zoiper, it's mostly used to offer an alternative for the people that have a handset that does not support VoLTE, or where the support is a little bit flaky, and that seems to be 99% of the people at the moment. So yeah, those people. We have some customers that mobile operators that, for example, only have a 4G data license, so they don't have any way to do audio except if they use VoLTE, or if they use an over-the-top application like ours. So they do a little part with the 2 or 3 handsets that they get working with a lot of help from the manufacturers with custom firmware, and everything else is running Zoiper.
So you can actually cheat, I guess, and use Zoiper as a less complicated way of achieving voice over Wi-Fi.
Correct.
Yes. So you don't have to go off to Apple and buy 100,000 iPhones.
Yeah, it's not just voice over Wi-Fi; it's also the voice over LTE. It's more than the voice over Wi-Fi, I think, because like this, the operator already controls the data connection. They don't have to deal with maybe something wrong with the access point where they don't control it, where maybe you're out of range. At least if they have data with LTE, they know exactly what's going on. They can prioritize the traffic, and like this, it's worked well.
Yeah, it's an exciting area, and I'm guessing that certainly the iOS version, you'll have the call kit integration, so all the calls appear on Zoiper, from Zoiper, appear in the call record. Is that right?
We have call kits and we have push support, but so far it's only been for the white label customers.
Okay.
The reason being the complication of setting up a push server without you having to intercept every single call for the user. Well, not just intercepting the call, but intercepting the user credentials. Now we do have something coming there, so we did make some sort of a server where we route the calls, but without having to store the user credentials, because we really don't want to do that. We don't want to store the credentials for a few million people on one server. I think would be a very welcome target for frauds to play with.
Well, it's not the place to do it. That sort of thing really ought to be in the PCRF and HSS within the mobile network, I think.
So this is what we do for the white label customers. It's easy because they can put the things that need to be done on the server side, and we do the same on the client side, so everything works. But the application is linked directly to the server certificate at that point. So we could not offer push and let everybody use that push server without changes on the server, unless we route the call somehow. So something's coming there in the next weeks.
Indeed. Anyway, I'm just looking at the IRC. We've got a number of questions popping up for you, so we better get into those. Dear old Dan Jenkins, the Nimble Ape, would like to know what's the benefit of me using Zoiper rather than the SIP client built into the Android dialer. Well,
I think on Android, not every phone has the native dialer, plus the native SIP dialer, plus I think the functionality is a little bit limited in terms of supported codecs, etc. In some cases, you might get better audio quality with Zoiper as well.
And of course, with Zoiper, you get video as well. So
you get video, you get a little bit more functionality too, I think.
And, you have EECs in Zoiper, so if you want to do some tricky stuff, talking back to your asterisk box somewhere, there you go.
Yeah, true.
Okay. We've got Kathleen from the Free Switch team stating that she prefers soft phones to hard phones. Well done. I can get myself into big trouble there. What else? Dan Jenkins again states that life in WebRTC land sucks right now, to be honest.
Well, to be honest, we are also doing some WebRTC.
So what are you doing in the WebRTC space?
So everything you saw in the desktop version, we have a web version that is identical to that. So you could have exactly the same interface running in your Chrome and make calls like that. Now, we made that to work, I think, maybe 2 years ago. And now we are upgrading. We kind of set aside to focus on the release of Zoiper 5, and now we're merging back all the changes. And since then, WebRTC has changed a lot, so we need to get back to that. So I think the interface is working in, but there's something going wrong with the call. So, but I do expect to have something there soon.
Okay, because yeah, WebRTC is one of those interesting areas where people got hugely excited, then realized how much complexity there is associated with WebRTC and kind of backed off back into their safe little silos again.
I'm a little bit worried with WebRTC because we're completely at the mercy of the browser vendors. So if they decide to push some update or something goes wrong, then we can't really control anything. Like we can't really say, oh, the quality was not good. Oh, we'll try to fix it. We'll make some changes.
Indeed.
We can't really do that.
It's tricky.
As we're so fond of saying, things Chrome broke this week.
Yep.
Exactly. So, but if you have 100,000 customers using that, and then that week you get all these emails, and it might be something as simple as, oh, please use this version, or don't use it like this, or change this setting. But if you have to do that for a couple of 100,000 people, it's probably not so pleasant. In our case, we have a lot of free users that we also try to help where possible, but it's significant efforts that go into that.
Indeed. Anyway. What else have we got? Corrado, you've got some comments about client PBXs, haven't you?
Well, no, I because the client can use IAX that is native to Asterisk, and is also very good to go through NAT because it uses just one port. That is a very interesting, a very welcome proposition. So it's also very good for roaming clients and workforce that is on the field. You can open the IAX port with very little concerns about getting hacked, also because of the security itself of the IAX protocol. So again, good move.
Oh yeah, a quick explanation for the uninitiated. IAX, or EEX as it's pronounced, is Inter-Asterisk Exchange Protocol, which unlike SIP, which uses both separates the signaling and the media into two different streams, EEX uses everything over one port, which makes firewall and NAT traversal much easier. And it was popular. It used to be very popular. About 8 years ago.
But Zoiper started as an EEX-only phone. There was no SIP in the beginning. And back then it made perfect sense because the internet connectivity was quite expensive. And with EEX you could do trunking, so you would save a lot of the overhead by bundling multiple poles together and just have one header for all the RTP equivalent of audio. Nowadays, I think it's used a bit less maybe. But I think it's probably it's very easy for the NAT. It's easy for the desktop. On the mobile, it's a bit more difficult because it's using UDP instead of TCP, which is a bit harder to have a decent battery life with, at least for incoming calls.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, it was my US brother, the indomitable and even larger than me, Ed Guy, who was largely responsible for formulating the RFC for EEX2. I miss him. So come back, Ed, wherever you are. Anyway, changing the subject, let's talk about. I know that Andy has got some burning observations about the Windows client, and in fact, Andy, you ran into some rather interesting installation problems, didn't you?
Well, I did, yes, but they were easily explained. So I shall give the gentleman the opportunity to explain once again. So I installed the 32-bit version, and then I overwrote it with the 64-bit version, and said 64-bit version didn't function. But we know why, don't we, Zoa?
Yes. So it seems if you change the versions quite rapidly, that there is some caching going on within Windows for the 32-bit DLLs in your case. And the moment you overwrite them, Windows will still be loading the old versions. So you have a 64-bit product that is trying to load 32-bit DLLs, which obviously is not going very well. So if you reboot your PC, the problem is gone. I think you might also be able to restart some service in Windows that takes care of the caching. But we'll probably have to either change the names for the DLLs between 32 and 64-bit or store them in a different folder or so to make this not happen anymore.
Restarting Windows is much easier than trying to restart any service on Windows. So that restart
probably, yeah, but I don't like to have the pop-up at the end of an installation. Oh, please restart your PC, because in most of the cases it's not necessary to do that. So,
well,
if we can solve it in a different way, it would be nice.
Okay, so if it came up with a message saying please restart this service or press this button to restart this service and fix your problem, that would be good. But to be honest, restarting Windows happens all the time anyway. So.
And to be entirely honest, restarting Windows once in a while is always good.
In fact, it's desirable.
Yeah.
But that's my only real observation. Aside from that, and the fact that I can't seemingly manage to get my combination right to log into OnSIP, it's my only observation thus far. I have actually had Zoiper 5 running on the Android beta for some while, so I must update that and give that a go as well.
Yeah, I think if you wait another week, it will be released as a stable, I think.
Okay, but I have yesterday actually updated my Nexus 5X to Android 8.1, so it'll be interesting to see how well it works under 8.1.
I think there's also in a couple of months, probably by the time QA and all the testing and beta testing is done, there is a complete rewrite coming for iOS as well that looks a bit more modern and is written in Swift instead of Cocoa. Has been going on for quite a while as well. And I think in the near future we'll also have the new family of SDKs coming out that are a bit easier to use, a bit higher level than the older versions.
You have been busy, haven't you? You really have been busy.
We've been very busy. I mean, we've been working very hard for the last couple of years, but we didn't really release anything. So people might ask, okay, what's happening there? Did you stop development? But to rewrite a product that is as complicated as a SIP client, it's a lot of work. And in our case, well, most of the products took, what is it, Android 3 years or so, desktop 4. And it's the last 5% that is taking most of the work.
Yep.
As usual, I guess.
Hopefully, in the coming weeks, you'll start to see, or maybe get a lot more feedback as the uptake of version 5 trickles out across the user base. What's the upgrade plan? How does it work? I mean, we come to this a little obtusely. How does it work if you're running the prior versions and you're upgrading? What are the economics of that?
Yeah. So if you you want to take this one, Mira, or shall I do it?
Whatever you want. If you feel like talking.
Okay, so if you bought Zoiper in the last 6 months, you will get a free upgrade to the latest product. And if you have an older version, then you get a 30% discount for Zoiper 5. Now, Zoiper 3 doesn't stop working. It will keep working, and we'll probably have a couple more upgrades there. But we will not do major new developments on Zoiper 3 anymore. Meaning we won't suddenly add wideband to it, or we won't add remote desktop sharing to it. This functionality will go into Zoiper 5. So I think
all new functionality will go to Zoiper 5.
Yeah.
We will just stop updating the previous products.
It will go into bug fixes only, yeah.
And certainly if you want the latest and greatest mobile functionality and compatibility going forward, you're going to have to go to Zoiper 5, aren't you?
Well, on the mobile, it's all the upgrades are for free. And actually, this I think so far is the first time we charge for an upgrade in the 14 years of our existence. So far, if you bought something 14 years ago, then you could still get the latest version from the latest release for Zoiper 3, and well, you still can. But with Zoiper 5, we decided not to do that anymore.
I imagine. I mean, there's so much change in the underlying code base that it's at some point it's a a wholly new product. And
this one is actually a completely new product. So there's not a single line of shared code for the interface, at least. The SDK we use is let's say an evolution on the previous ones, but the interface is completely rewritten. There's nothing that is the same.
very cool.
Do you have a roadmap for new features and a timeline?
A timeline, not so much. We do have a lot of things we want to add. So the first things that are going to be added is the new APIs. So we used to have a COM API on Windows only. Now we will have a WebSockets API on all the different platforms. So you will be able to control it directly from your browser if you want to. But obviously you could also use some other application to control it. But that's also going to work on Linux, going to work on Mac. Then desktop sharing is coming. Just need some finishing touches. XMPP will be added again. We dropped it for the initial release. What else do we have going on? I think those are the bigger features. We'll probably be focusing more on integration with other products. We'll check what other things we have. You have any new things coming up, Salah?
Well, we have improvement for what we have currently. For example, we want to add a restriction, so the administrator can restrict some settings to the user from the configuration file. We want to have. Currently, I'm checking the Salesforce possible Salesforce integration. Other than that, it will be for the long run. Actually,
yeah,
it will not be anytime soon.
There's a few more tiny bugs that we also found, like on some versions of Linux, the icon is missing. It's working fine, but the icon is missing. So there's some little bugs we still have to fix. I think on Mac, if you change the resolution, there might be something going wrong. So I think there will be some more bug fixes and some more new functionality coming soon.
On which kind of user interface for Linux? Because I'm using KDE and the.
I think it was Fedora 26, something like that.
No, I'm talking about GNOME or KDE or any other.
I would have to look at the bug report to know exactly on which one we had a report like that.
Because on KDE is working perfectly.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I don't know what window manager they were using. We'd have to look at the tickets.
Okay. And another quick question. What are you doing about G729 codec now that it's deemed to be virtually license free?
We'll probably start moving it to be free. At the moment, we still don't, because it's more extra work for us to now make it free again. But I think on the mobile, it will probably end up being in the free version.
Brilliant.
Because we try not to promote it. I think people should not use G729 unless they really have to. I don't see big advantages in using G729. It's the same people still ask us if we have support for Speaks, for example. Why bother with Speaks? If you have a server that is doing Speaks, it probably can do Opus as well. So then people should use Opus if they can. But it's the G729. It's a bit of a marketing thing. There's been better codecs for 10 years or so, but people still. It's because of the hardware support.
Yeah, the problem with G729 is hardware support across all that legacy infrastructure, right? And it's still in demand if you're buying gray routes to distant places. So but that's just, I'm the only word, it's nasty. It's just nasty.
Yeah, I have a big issue with it because G729 always has had problems transcoding to AMR, which of course is what all the mobiles tend to use. And so if you want a guaranteed lump of transcoding distortion, use G729, guaranteed every time.
Yeah, well, it's not just that though, is it? It's because it's a low bitrate codec. Both are low bitrate codecs. So transcoding between them is going to be extraordinarily lossy.
Well,
yeah, but you can transcode between Opus at comparable bit rates and get better results. From G711 to Opus at that kind of a bit rate is dramatically better.
Okay, I accept that. However, we are talking, as we've already said, 10 years difference in terms of codec development.
Yes, indeed.
Well, you need to question why G729 has been put now on public domain or free. It's practically dead. That's probably why.
Should have been dead years ago.
I don't think it's dead at all. It's just that the patents expired, and that's why it went to public domain. They made back their investment 1,000 times over. Because the licensing fees for G729, they were not cheap. I mean, for every copy, it was a lot of money to be paid.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, it's not a lot of code. It's very outdated. I don't know when was G729 created. The first parts probably well over 20 years ago.
Well, it's time to kill it off. We ought not to be talking about it because it's a horrible codec.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we all love Opus.
We do love Opus. It's approaching the top of the hour, so we really ought to start wrapping up. But before we do, when are we going to see you out and about? And in particular, have you heard about ComCon, Dan Jenkins' event next summer? Mira, are you coming to ComCon?
I've heard of it.
And are you going to come?
The venue is lovely.
It's in June. It's not in October like all the other conferences. So we actually might have good weather in June as well in London, in the UK.
Yeah.
Betty.
Yeah, a word about the venue there. It's halfway between Heathrow and Gatwick Airport, so to the south of London, but in the country. And it's a large Georgian-style kind of country home. And the idea is that everybody converges on there, and it's an all-inclusive conference. So you know how if you're in Chicago or Orlando or something like that, people tend to wander off and do their own thing. But in the case of ComCon, everybody will be stuck in one beautiful setting. And the idea is to make it really memorable. We're looking at all kinds of interesting things to add to it. So like the Sipsmith cocktail bar and other things, which we ought not to talk about because just in case they don't happen.
Yeah, don't jinx it.
Yeah, but we're all aiming to be there, and we think it would be a really good idea if Joachim and Mira and Zila as well, they ought to let you out.
Yeah, for us, it's actually not that far away to go as well. So
no, it's flying into Gatwick is quite easy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as long as you fly into Gatwick and not Stansted, as you did last time. Oh, crazy. Poor old Andy had to go and pick you up, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you for going back by train.
Anyway, so you don't have to answer now, but it would be really, really, really great to see.
We'll try to make it happen.
Yeah, and
we'll definitely try to make it happen.
And Zoe, you need to have a little bit of downtime every now and then.
Yeah, I know.
And I think ComCon will be marginally less dangerous than having you on the ski slopes.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, maybe if I go skiing next month, then you'll see me in 6 months with a wheelchair again.
No, don't do it. It's far too dangerous. Anyway, we're actually smack on the top of the hour. So, Michael, I think it's probably about time for you to do the wrap.
Well, I was going to ask Dan Jenkins if he wanted to join us, or just.
I already asked him. He said no because he's wearing a coat.
Oh, okay. Well, so
I think it makes him look a bit like Paddington Bear, as opposed to a nimble ape.
He's got no heating out in his new office then.
Well, he has the same problem I do, in that it gets chilly, and if you don't actually have real heating systems, you get into a problem. In any event, we will.
He's just said, "Send me a link." So I'm going to put this link. Actually, no, I'll send him it directly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very quickly, because we're running out of time, and
because we lose the satellite in 3 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the recording costs so much.
Yeah.
Actually, it's been a bit obtuse, and I'm a little bit out of sorts not having Randy. This is the first call in. There might have been one earlier this year where we didn't have Randy, but he's kind of the anchor, and we need to acknowledge that.
We certainly miss him, don't we, when he's not around?
Yeah, exactly.
He's probably spying on us anyway. He's probably just visiting as a guest.
Yeah,
how Michael is doing as a new host.
I think he thinks that I'll show them. They won't be able to pull this. There's probably an element of that to it. He did say something about taking December off and then wandered off, and it was like, oh well, I wasn't really sure what that meant, but here we are, just the same.
Is that Nanook of the North I see, or is that Dan Jenkins?
It's cold.
It's cold here too, Dan. I'll give you that. You don't often see me in a coat either.
It's like the end of the day, so I don't want to heat my office up for no reason.
Oh, you're just so cost effective.
I am.
Well, we've already done the big ComCon push, but since you're the man in charge, what do you have to tell us? How's it going?
Going good. The call for papers closes on the 22nd of December.
Oh no! Oh, quick! I must get my talk in quickly.
If you want to speak at ComCon, you need to get your talk in for the 22nd of December so that I can read proposals over Christmas, which sounds really fun.
Like a wonderful
and
idea.
you've got a kind of a super duper link for that. You're using a system to collect proposals, which is typically you, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you can go to papercall.io/ComCon-2018. Go to comcon.xyz and it's at the top. So yeah, go there. You can obviously come and buy your ticket on comcon.xyz. And we are still looking for sponsors too. So if any viewers are interested in sponsoring ComCon, then the details are all on the website.
And the sponsor rates are not hugely overpriced, are they? And of course you get free tickets.
So yeah, because it's a different type of conference where your conference ticket includes accommodation. Your sponsorship also includes accommodation. So
unlike many other conferences, sponsorship does not automatically guarantee you a speaking slot, though, does it?
No, it definitely does not. I was talking to Simon Weirhead about this the other day. I was like, "Have you put in your talk yet?" And he was like, "No," and he joked around thinking that he might have a speaking slot. He knew that he didn't have a speaking slot. So no, if you are a sponsor, you do not get a speaking slot. You have to put in a talk just like everyone else.
Quite right too. Anyway, I think. Thank you, Nanook, from your place in the North Pole. I think that about wraps it all. So thank you, Mira. Thank you, Joachim, and thank you, Selaf. Hopefully, they will let you out to come and play with everybody.
Hopefully.
If not at ComCon, hopefully we'll see you in Berlin for Kama Elio World, which is the other really good place to get out and be seen. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome.
And we shall push this button now and bring this all to a close as we go to the adults only portion. 3, 2, 1, bye.